make it more interact, to making it more interactive for you. And so, and as she says, giving you homework. And it's really, we say homework, but it's just giving you different techniques and things to think about when you get home. And for the next month, we could be able to discuss how everything is going. Because one thing you could go ahead and say, I want to attend this class, but am I getting anything out of it? Is one thing. And we're hoping by the needs assessments and the questions that we ask you in the beginning, and to kind of think about that you could use that information to gauge how you're benefiting from everything. So we also, as we said, we're changing the format a little bit. So this is series number 2, when it says your brain on fear. Last month was your brain on stress. Next month on our series number 3, it's going to be your brain on family and friends. And that's because we're coming up into the holiday season with Thanksgiving and Christmas. And by understanding how your body's responding and with, different activities, it will give you a better understanding what's going on, not only with your physical body, but also what's going on with your mental state and how your brain is impacting everything. So let's go ahead and get started. I want to just take myself off the video because, to tell you the truth, it's distracting looking at myself. But we're going to go ahead and get started. So just as a friendly reminder, I know we got you off of mute, but if you want to go ahead and ask any questions, and I would like for you to be able to engage in asking questions as we go along. You could put it in the chat or turn on your microphone so that we can hear you. And so also we're going to have Q&A at the end where it's not going to be recorded. So if you feel free to ask different questions. And I learned from you, and I'm hoping that you're learning from me as well. So let's ask questions and things like that. Your brain on fear. We picked this one for Halloween because of, Halloween being that fear factor and everything else. So we're going to talk a little bit about what the impact of fear goes into the body, what part it affects the brain. And some of the things you may not even heard about is called epigenetics. And that may explain some of the things that you may be fearful about, where you never really experienced the entity that's causing your fear. So we will learn a lot of that as we go along, as well as learning different types of techniques as far as breathing techniques that you could do in the privacy of your home or in your car, or not really this particular one in your car, but in the office or in your quiet space. Needs assessment. This is something that we just started last month. And basically, we want you to kind of think, it's not a test or anything else, but it's kind of looking at you, where you see yourself, your perspective as for how you're managing stress. Sometimes you may say, well, you know what, I'm very stressful, but you may find that as we go along these courses, as you're learning a little bit more different techniques, that you're managing your stress a lot better than you had in the previous times. And so being able to understand that will go ahead and help you to gauge what's going on. So we're going to go ahead and ask a question. And this using a scale of 1 to 10, 0 being not happy and 10 being very satisfied, I'm going to ask you 2 questions. The first question is, how much do you sense that there is fear attached to your stress? Okay, that's a very interesting question, because sometimes we just feel stressed because of situations. But have you ever considered how much of your stress is caused by your fear? Now, the numbers would be 0 to being none, and 10 being that you feel that fear is one of the biggest components to your stress level. So go ahead and write that down, and we're going to use that for next week when we go ahead and look at it again, next month when we look at it again. So again, how much do you sense that there is fear attached to your stress? 0 being none, and 10 being a lot. Okay. Question number 1, we still got a lot of people having 4s and 7s, so some is kind of medium. Is there some of it? Fear is a large component of your stress. Okay, question number 2. How often do you have a difficult time relaxing from your fears? 0 being, low, and then 10 being very high, that you're having a difficult time. Okay, so we still got some really high numbers. Okay, so what I would like for you to do is to go ahead and, jot these numbers down, maybe put on a sticky and say, fear factor, October presentation, these are my numbers to my needs assessments questions on fear. And then based on the information that you received today, and then if you practice some of the exercises that we're going to talk about, we want to see those numbers come down. Okay. Now, my next question, for those of you who participated last month and was in the presentation, my question is, we gave you a superpower assignment, and it was on your brain on stress. How much did you feel? How did you feel after doing last month's assignment? Did you feel that some of the techniques that we gave, the breathing exercise, some of the exercises on looking at where you're at, where you see yourself at in your present situation, have you seen a change? If you had not participated, if you did not get to see the presentation last month, you could just go ahead and just put no, put NA. Then that way, that means that's telling me that you didn't get to see it, so you wasn't able to participate. But if you did get a chance to participate or view the video, let me know if it has helped you or not. Okay. All right, so we got a lot of NAs. Okay. All right. So we got quite a few NAs, and I understand, sometimes we can't always make the presentations and get the exercises. But I hope that in the times to come that even though you cannot make it, if you sign up for it, you will get a copy of the presentation, and that you'll be able to listen to the videos and use some of the techniques that we're going to be teaching you. Okay. The brain center activated, hold on. Okay, if you want to get last month's presentation, go ahead and let Heather know, and she'll make sure that you get a copy of it, okay? One of the things that we want to think about is what happens to the brain when your body, your emotions are being reacted by fear. And what happens is that the body makes adjustments for the best defense. Your body is always going to go ahead and try to protect itself. And so what we call a flight reaction. So whenever you are experiencing fear, the body's going to respond by the part of the brain called the amygdala. And this is an almond-shaped part of the brain that's in the temporal lobe of the brain. And this is also part of the emotional stimuli of the body. The temporal lobe of the brain is right above the sight, right along the ears, right above that area. So that's what we call the temporal lobes. So that's where it's at. And because fear is, whenever you encounter fear or any type of fearful stimulus, that part of the brain is going to be activated. And then when that happens, that causes a neurological response to the body. And what happens when you detect any threats, it activates what we call to activate the appropriate fear-related behaviors in response to that threatening or dangerous stimuli. Some of the things that you may experience due to this situation is your heart rate is going to go up, your blood pressure may increase, your pupils become dilated. You may also find yourself breathing a little bit faster. And that's your body's response to what it needs to do to protect itself. By the heart rate going up, that means your body's going to try to get more blood going out to the different parts of the body. So if you're going to run, it has enough energy and fuel to run. And if you need to go ahead to what we call dilate, the pupils dilate. And one of the things is this a primal type of instinct that the body is doing. But when your eyes dilate, it actually gets your vision very clear. And that is something that we call back, centuries and centuries ago, so that you can see your enemies. And so your eyes dilate. And then some of the other body functions that will happen will be that some of your body releasing functions will decrease. And that means excretions. Because in the military, I always used to say you can't poop and shoot at the same time. So that's your body's response as a protective measures. It's going to go ahead, increase in the heart rate so that you can run, increase in oxygen, so you're going to breathe faster, and so that you could be able to go and run and get more oxygen throughout the blood system. So this is what happens when your body is experiencing fear. And so all of these stimulus is going to go ahead and then start activating. And now we got what we call situational and long terms. Situational is just something that's just spontaneous. This particular action happens, and then you just do what you need to do. The body responds accordingly. But sometimes when it's prolonged or continuous, then that's when things start becoming very dangerous for us. So let's look at the fear impacted on stress and also on resilience. So whenever your body has stress, your body's going to go ahead and start doing something. The amygdala is going to go ahead and become activated. The temporal lobes is going to go ahead and detecting that emotional stimulus. And sometimes it's going to go ahead and cause us to start doing something. The body, in protecting itself, is going to go ahead and tell the nervous system to become activated, to do something, to protect itself. So all of this is going on in your body. And sometimes we don't even think about all of these different things that's going on. Your cortisol levels is going to change. You're going to have hormones, and as far as the body needing these different types of things are going on. So this is all your brain. Your brain, that nice part of your brain is protecting you due to perceived and also involve, types of actions and fears. Okay. So what can you do? Now, when you look at people who is experiencing fear, now you may have the same fears, but then you may have one person who is afraid to get up and talk to people in front of an audience. Two people having the same fear. Now, if you look at the two people, one person is doing okay with it. The other person is starting to sweat bullets, they're just sweating, the armpits is getting very moist from sweat. They just can't do anything. They start getting jittery and shaking and everything else. And if you think about it, these are two different people who has the same fear, but they're responding differently. And one of the reasons is that one person has more of a resilience to it, to that fear, where the other one doesn't. Now, what happens is that when you build up resiliency, your body is actually protecting itself against the many stressors and many changes that's going on to your body. It's going to go ahead and change how you respond. It's going to go ahead and change the connectivity between the amygdala, the hypothalamus, and the frontal cortex. Those are the brain's fear, memory, and mood centers. And they're going to go ahead and make these changes. And one person's change is going to be different than another one because they're more resilient. They have built more of a resiliency to that. So their brain is now saying, hey, this is okay. We're doing okay. Let's think about it. How many of you are going out and exercising, and one person is exercising and they do it on a regular basis, and the other one doesn't? Now, these two people decide they're going to go ahead and walk 6 miles on a very nice day in San Antonio. Okay, now let's look at it. The one person that's been practicing and going out, they both don't really like walking a lot. But then you have the other person that's been practicing and able to, do every day, going out there walking. Now the other their partner doesn't do any walking, but they have this thing going on about it. Now, who is going to kind of get tired the fastest? The person who's been practicing it, or the person who's just getting started? The person who's been practicing it is similar to what we call building resiliency. That means that they've been going through this practice and, going every day, taking their time, walking and everything else. So their body knows how to respond. So they're not going to get as tired. They're not going to get as stressed. And the person who did not practice, who did not experience walking 6 miles, is going to be very tired and hurting and sore. So that's the same thing when we call building resiliency within our brain and our emotional centers. So how can we build resiliency? By building resiliency, we can help to combat our fears and knowing how to regulate the stress response. Now, when you think about it, just like you go out there and you're walking every day, you're building up your body's resiliency to walking, enduring more and being able to stretch it out. And the same thing when you talk about your fears. If you build up resiliency, that item that you was fearful about, it starts becoming very minimal. The fear just becomes less and less and less. And so by learning and adapting certain types of skill sets can help your body respond to these fears. Now, when this happens, it helps to engage your prefrontal cortex, so that doesn't get overrun by the brain's fear factors and arousal, which is the amygdala, during times of stress. So you might find yourself, the more you practice on how to handle your stress and fears, you're going to find that the prefrontal is actually saying, no, we're okay. And it's going to tell the body's response center that you do not need to go ahead and cause the stressors, the hormones, the nervous system to respond to this fear, because basically we got this. And so that's what we want to do. We want to be able to build resiliency. So what do we need to do to build resiliency? Well, here are just some things that you can do to help build up resiliency. Some of the things is being optimistic. How many of you are half full or half empty kind of people? Be honest with yourself. Really be honest with yourself. In any situation, do you see yourself saying, you know what, this is kind of bad, but you know what? It's not that bad at all, Or, sometimes if you kind of look at your faith and you kind of look at, you know what, this could get really better. This would get better over time. And what's happening, you're building up on that prefrontal cortex of the body, the brain, ability to say, you know what? It's not that bad. But that takes time, and it takes training, and it takes awareness. Self-belief. Sometimes when you're fearful on things and you're having, a difficult time, it's your self-confidence. It's what do you believe about yourself, your ability to do things. I know when I was in the military that I was, talking in front of people, I didn't like it because I didn't believe in myself and that I could be able to do a very good presentation. And then one day I was doing a presentation before a big audience, and there was a lot of government officials, some senators, Congress, men and women, senior government aid people, and military too as well. And we was, myself and another person, we was, reading off a script. Oh my God. In the middle of the script, and I've been practicing and practicing and practicing and very, very nervous about the whole thing. I got so tongue-tied. My tongue, I was just blah, 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 blah. It was horrible. I was totally embarrassed. And, but you know what? Everybody kind of laughed. I made a little bit of joke after that, and everybody laughed, and I got back, to doing it, being okay. And so after that, I realized that I didn't fall apart. I didn't die. I made a mistake, and I could do better. So each time I just got better and better at it, and I started believing in myself more and more. And so what happened, that impacted that part of the brain, that it helped me to where I wasn't making a lot of mistakes like I've done before. And when you do build a lot more resiliency, what happens sometimes if you are in a fearful kind of situation, you lose control. Okay, sometimes you're snapping at people, you're snapping at yourself, you're getting very angry, and you just lose self-control. But by building more resiliency, by understanding your abilities and your inabilities and accepting those for who you are, you begin to be able to control more of yourself. You're not snapping at people because now you're understanding what your triggers are. And being able to understand that, doesn't that help? What are your fears? And now being aware of it, you'd be able to control how you respond to it. And having a willingness to adapt to different situations. Sometimes some people, they don't like change. Oh my gosh. And whenever you talk about change, even if it means changing, changing time from going to work from 7:30 to 8:30, it's changed. And even though they get to sleep in late, they will not like it. And they will have a hard time with it because they don't like change, because they're fearful of that change. But being able to look at it and to adapt, and having a willingness, and that's the thing, having a willingness to adapt to changes will go ahead and make a big difference on how you respond to fear and how your body's going to respond likewise. And be flexible. Some people, they would brag about it. I'm not a flexible person, and I refuse to be flexible. Now, think about it. If you're one of those people that refuse to be flexible, I'm going to ask you a question, and I want you to think about it. How stressed are you on a given day? Think about that. And if you would say on a scale of 0 to 10, 10 being very stressful, look at your willingness to be flexible. And if you find that you're very stressful, and you look at that one factor, say, hey, I'm not a flexible person. I'm not going to give. I don't care. I don't care what they say. No. And look at your stress. Look at your health. Now, when you do build resiliency, you're going to be able to solve complex problems like you've never been able to do before. Because now you don't have a lot of fear, you don't have a lot of stress, you don't have a lot of things running through your head that's inhibiting you from being able to think and calculate situations well. And you want to be able to do that. But so building resilience is going to give you that ability to solve problems better than you've been able to do before. And also resiliency is also going to make you more emotionally aware of who you are, what your triggers are, what's causing it. And by that awareness, that's going to help you resolve situations a lot better than you've been able to before. Also, being able to get support from others, or even being able to be a support person to somebody else also helps you, because sometimes when you be able to help somebody else, that takes the focus off of you. Think about it. Takes the focus off of you by helping others. And we talked about that a few months ago as far as being mindful and helping others, and how that helps you in being a better person as you start volunteering and helping others, and that helps with your body. And how many of you don't feel you have a sense of humor and you take everything so serious? But then as you start doing more to helping to build your resiliency and helping to get away from a lot of the fear and stress and everything else, you're going to find yourself being able to laugh at certain things and not having to worry about being laughed at when, as far as other people. You just say, okay, yeah, let's go on. Next, and start laughing. And one of the things that happens when you do laugh, it does help to minimize your stress. So these are just some of the things that you can do to help build resiliency within yourself. And as such, to help minimize and start decreasing your fears, and at the same time, decreasing your stress. Now, one of the things that we were talking about, a lot of the stressors that we all experience, a lot of the fears that we experience is mostly situational. But within the last few almost 10 to 15 years, there's been more studies that's been done on stress and mental health and stress and fears. And it's been mostly on genetics. And what's happened, they found that a lot of situations and fears that people have never encountered these experiences before, but they're very fearful of these different types, and their body responds as if they've been in those situations from day one, but they've never been, they never experienced it. And that's called epigenetics. And what they're finding now, how your body responds to fear changes the nervous system. And at the same time, while it's changing the nervous system, it's also changing your genetic makeup. And so they're finding that occurrences that may have happened back during the Holocaust, back during slavery, even, children that was born during 9/11, and their parents experienced the turmoil and trauma that has happened during 9/11, their children are inherited certain fears that they've never been exposed to. So this quick video is going to talk to you a little bit about intergenetics, epigenetics, and intergenerational trauma.
Nature versus nurture has been debated for over a century, but what if I told you I could settle the debate? Instead of nature versus nurture, let's consider nature and nurture. This understanding forms the basis of a field called epigenetics. Epigenetics refers to the study of inherited phenotype changes that maintain original DNA sequence. In other words, under epigenetic changes, your DNA remains the same, but the expression of certain genes in your DNA can change in response to your environment. Your body is composed of cells. You have hair cells, muscle cells, and kidney cells, to name a few, that each contain the same DNA but perform widely different functions. Why is that? This is because different types of cells express different genes. Gene expression is regulated by chemicals called methyl groups that bind to specific genes to turn them on and off, like a light switch, in a process called methylation. Gene expression also functions through proteins called histones, which gives DNA its spool-like structure. The more tightly DNA is coiled around the histone, the less a gene is expressed. So as you can see, methyl groups and histones are integral to gene expression. What's interesting about these biological components is that they are impacted by your environment, from the food you eat to the experiences you faced. Based on the environment in which you develop, as a fetus, a child, and even an adult, methylation and histones continuously alter your gene expression. So, if your environment can alter the expression of your genes, its effects can be hereditary and passed down from generation to generation. This idea is important when considering intergenerational trauma and mental health effects. According to epigenetics, children and grandchildren of trauma survivors can experience the same effects, although they themselves have never directly experienced that same trauma. This is seen with later generations of people who have survived slavery, Jim Crow, the Holocaust, 9/11, war, famine, and other traumatic experiences. A study conducted on Holocaust survivors and their children showed that both groups lacked a methyl group on the gene FKBP5, which indicates risk for depression and PTSD. The epigenetic change in the trauma survivor suggests that your environment impacts genetic expression. The same epigenetic change in the child of the trauma survivor indicates that the genetic impact of trauma is hereditary. Therefore, you're more at risk of developing PTSD, depression, anxiety, and other trauma responses if you have a family lineage of trauma, even though you have never experienced the trauma itself. This helps us to better understand the lasting impact of traumatic experiences, especially among communities that have been historically marginalized and are presently marginalized, and can help us further advance mental health research and methods of addressing mental health issues. Thank you for watching. Be well. Nature.
Well, I hope was able to understand that. I have a background in biology close over 40 years ago, actually more than that. And so one of the things that we learned back then that, your genes does not change. It kind of stays forever. So now through a lot more research and technology, where they're able to do more studies and looking at gene makeup and the chemical makeup of the genes and some of the changes that goes on through, from one generation to another. And by looking at family members, and they've even done some studies on twin babies and seeing a difference in one child's response versus another. And even though we think that they're identical twins, you may find that in some cases that they respond differently to different stimuli. And that could be because of the genetic makeup of their parents and what they inherited from their parents many years ago. So one of the things that, as we're going on and learning a little bit more about that, one of the things I want you to be aware of, as we talked about fear, a lot of it's situational, but then a lot of it is also genetically inherited. So what can you do to resolve these problems, the situation, your fears? One is by self-awareness and by building resiliency. And the other one is through the self-awareness and what you can do. So for the next few minutes, we're going to talk about different things that you can do to help combat that. As we discussed in the previous presentation, we talked about the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve, and as I said, over the years, even 15 years ago when I went back to school to become a nurse, vagus nerve was just really not a lot of information was studied or knew about on the vagus nerve. Now we're finding out how the vagus nerve stimulates every area of the body. It's located in the brain, but that nerve runs and provides information and stimulus throughout from the top of the head to the end of your digestive system. And by stimulating that, it helps to communicate your brain with the other organs, and it helps with that mind-body connection, which is very important. What you're feeling, your mind is telling your body to respond in certain ways. Now, being able to help your nervous system change your response, we want to be able to be learning that stimulating the vagus nerve is essential for your mental and physical health. And so what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and help to minimize the body's response to stress and stressors by stimulating the vagus nerve. So one of the things we're going to do in this particular exercise of stimulating the vagus nerve is called the lion's breath. The lion's breath is a breathing technique that's said to alleviate stress, eliminate toxins, and stimulates your throat and upper chest. Now, as I mentioned before, the vagus nerve runs from the brain and along the side of your neck. So by doing this particular lion's breath, what you're going to do is you're going to be the breathing technique is going to actually vibrate the vagus nerve. And when you're vibrating that vagus nerve, you're kind of causing it to relax. And as it's relaxing, it's telling other body systems to relax as well. So it's going to minimize your fear response to certain things, and it's going to help to calm your body. So with this exercise, I'm just going to talk it through, and then I'm going to practice it. And if you feel comfortable, you could practice it too. Okay. So I'm going to put my video on so that you could be able to see me as I do it. Okay. So what you're going to do, I'm going to talk you through it, is you're going to inhale through your nose. And then you're going to go ahead and open your eyes and look upward. Open your mouth wide, stick out your tongue, and stretch it downward towards your chin, as far as you can. Some of us has the genes where our tongue will go ahead and touch our chin. And some of us, it just goes just a little bit outside the mouth. Whichever your body says to do, that's what you do. And then what you're going to do is you're going to exhale forcefully, breathing towards the root of your tongue. So what you're going to do, you're going to breathe exhale so forcefully that you're going to vibrate the nerves and surrounding your tongue and throat. And then as you exhale, you're going to make a sound like a ha sound. And being able to do that, you're going to be able to actually stimulate your vagus nerve. Okay, so I'm going to demonstrate. I'm going to do it 3 times, okay? And I'm not going to talk it. I'm just going to do it. Okay. Ah! Ah! Excuse my mother's hearing me doing this exercise. She's asking me if I'm okay. So if you're doing it, tell everybody you're doing okay. And the last time. Ah! Okay, so now what we're going to do is I'm going to have you do it, okay? And I'm just going to talk you through it. I'm not going to demonstrate so I could be able to talk you through it. So Make sure if you're at home that you tell everybody you're doing okay. If you're at work, also make sure that you're telling everybody you're okay, or just go into a little quiet area. And at the same time, what you may want to do is to go ahead and get your family and friends and everybody else to kind of come in and join in with you. Because guess what? You're not the only person who's having stress. You're not the only person who has fears, and you're not the only person who would like to be able to alleviate it or decrease it. Okay, so now I want you to get into a nice, comfortable position. If in this exercise, you really want to be sitting upright. You don't want to be laying down or anything like that. So what you're going to do, you could be sitting square with your feet on the floor in a chair, or you can sit in child's pose on the floor. And then put your hands along your knees and open your fingers wide as embracing your knees and making sure that your feet is firmly on the ground. So now what I want you to do, I should tell everybody, turn your cameras on so I can see if you're doing it, but I'm not going to put you on the spot. But anyway, so now I want you to take a nice deep breath in through your nose. As you're inhaling, I want you to open your eyes and look upward. And at the same time, open your mouth wide, stick out your tongue, and stretch it downward as far as you can towards your chin. Then I want you to exhale forcefully, carrying your breath across the root of your tongue while exhaling, making a ha sound that comes deep from within your abdomen. And this is one of the things that you want to do, is what we call a lot of, using your belly, your abdomen to helping you breathe. And think about it again. The vagus nerve is along the side. Your nerves around you have a lot of nerves around your tongue, so you're actually stimulating that. And the vagus nerve goes all the way down to your abdomen. So that movement, that vibration, that deep breathing that you're doing from your abdomen all the way up is stimulating your vagus nerve, thereby creating a more forceful mind-body connection. Okay, so let's do it again as you're breathing out normally. Take a nice deep breath and just breathe normally. Okay, so let's do it again. Inhale through your nose. Open your eyes and look upward. Open your mouth wide, stick out your tongue, and stretch it downward towards your chin. Now exhale as forcefully as you can, carrying that breath across the root of your tongue, and at the same time making a ha sound that comes from deep within your abdomen. Ah, great. One more time, okay? Breathe in through your nose, inhale. Open your eyes and look upward. Open your mouth wide, stick out your tongue, and stretch it downward towards your chin. Exhaling forcibly, carrying that breath across the root of your tongue, while exhaling, making that ha sound that comes from deep within your abdomen. Okay. So how did that feel? For those of you who was brave enough to do that, I hope it made you feel a lot better. And when you think about it, even to the point of you moving your eyes upward is actually stimulating your body's response. And so that's why it's important to do that. And there's some other vagus nerve exercises that we're going to learn later on in this series on eye movement and how that helps with the body-mind connection. Okay, so we're going to take the next few minutes to going through our meditation. So what I want you to do, I want you to get yourself, continue to sit in a very nice, comfortable position. And we're going to do at least 3 of the lion's breath in the beginning of the meditation. And we're going to be doing a guided meditation for the rest of the exercise. And once you do the 3 breaths, the lion's breath, so you could go ahead and breathe at your own pace. So sitting nice and comfortable, let's begin. Take a moment to breathe in and out. Okay, we're going to go ahead and start doing the lion's breath. We're going to do 3 of them. You're going to inhale through your nose. You're going to have your eyes go upward as you tilt your head slightly. You're going to open your mouth wide, stick out your tongue to at least try to touch your chin. And as you're exhaling forcefully, I want you to exhale forcefully to go ahead and get a ha sound. Breathe normal. Let's do it again. Inhale through your nose. As you're inhaling, I want you to kind of tilt your head with your eyes looking upward. Open your mouth wide, stick out your tongue, trying to get your tongue to touch your chin. And then as you're exhaling forcefully using your abdomen, make a loud ha sound, vibrating every nerve ending in the back of your tongue and along the side of your mouth. Breathe normal and make this your last time. Inhale through your nose. As you're inhaling, open your mouth, open your eyes, make your mouth open wide, stick out your tongue to try to touch your chin. And as you're exhaling, I want you to exhale forcefully to cause the vibration at the back and the root of your tongue and stimulate all the nerve endings in your tongue. Now take a nice, deep, cleansing breath. And breathing at your own pace. I want you to find yourself getting deeper and deeper in relaxation. And as we go through this meditation, if any items of fearfulness comes about, that's okay. What I want you to do is observe that fear as if it is not a part of you, as if it's something that you're looking at a faraway distance. Observe the fear, but not allow it to become a part of you as you're inhaling and exhaling. And even during this exercise, if you feel yourself being overwhelmed by this fear, go ahead and do the breathing technique we just learned, the lion's breath. So now as we're inhaling and exhaling, I want you to be mindful of what your body is sensing right now. What are you feeling? Starting at your feet, notice any sensations along your feet and your ankles. Just be mindful of it. You don't have to do anything. Just observe it. As you move gently up to your legs and your calves, just notice any sensations and what does it feel like. Just notice it. Do not allow yourself to become a part of it, especially if you feel it's something based on fear. Just observe it like you're doing a specimen in a lab. Moving gently up to your thighs. Notice any sensations on your legs. What does it feel like as you're gently breathing in and out? at your own pace. Feeling yourself deeper and deeper in relaxation. Feeling the warmth generated from the earth as it moves up to your feet, your calves, and your thighs. Noticing any sensations in your abdomen. How does it feel? Just observe the feeling. You don't have to do anything. Just notice the feeling, the sensation of your abdomen as you're gently inhaling and exhaling. Feeling the warmth moving gently, surrounding your abdomen, moving up towards your chest area. Feeling your lungs expanding with each breath and contracting with each exhalation. Breathing in and out. Feeling a warm glow of love generating and moving gently up towards the rest of your body and your well-being. Breathing in and out. Moving towards your throat, your face, your jaw. Noticing the sensations going throughout your body as you gently relax with each breath. Now, as you're starting to end this meditation, you can wiggle your fingers and wiggle your toes. And just gently bring yourself out of this meditation. So, superpower. We just gave you all these different techniques, and now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and talk about the superpowers that you have within you. And you may not feel that you have, so we're going to explore how you can realize that you have superpowers within you. So one of this particular superpower exercise, which is kind of your homework, is changing your relationship with fear. So what we want to do is we're going to start journaling. And you get yourself a nice little notebook or just, pad and paper, however you want to journal. Some of you are not probably journal. You don't do that or anything else like that. But what I want you to do is to go ahead and kind of gain a change in your relationship with fear. And by doing that, you want to, whenever you feel fear in your body or in your mind, how we just did the meditation, and we're observing the sensations that was going on inside of our bodies with each body part. Now, if you find that you're experiencing tightness or what you may call fearful moments, ask yourself this question: what am I avoiding right now? Because sometimes fear, you're going to try to fear will cause you to avoid certain situations. And by understanding what you're trying to avoid, it's going to also help you to understand what you're fearing. And it may be situational, but it also may be genetics. By understanding that would make things a lot easier for you to be able to combat it and also to build some resiliency. So what you want to do is connect to that voice of low self-worth that may be, talking to you, and that maybe you don't believe in yourself or your ability as far as being competent or even being, livability. So understand that voice, listen to that voice, and realize that that voice is not the truth. And so give that voice power, give it assurance that you are safe right now, that you are competent, that you are loved, and that it is enough, that you're enough, and you're worthy. So what you want to do is when you journal, on one side is a kind of, when you have a sensation of fear or whatever that fear is, write it down. And then underneath it, or on the next page beside it, go ahead and give it the assurance. Talk to yourself and say, I'm safe. There's nothing for me to be afraid of right now. I still have my job. I still have my family. I still have the financial needs to live from day to day. I am loved. I am competent. And write those things down on the other side. And write down on that other side of the journal how saying that, how believing that is making you feel, how it's making your body feel, and how it's responding to it. And understand that the more you do this, you're changing your body's response to fear. And for those of you who are going to have children and a family, and even, that's changing your DNA, especially if some of the fears that you may be having may be genetically translated to you from previous generations. So you're able to change the DNA, because your nervous system is now making a change as you're going through this particular exercise. So you're actually changing your DNA as well and how you respond to it. So do this exercise whenever you're feeling, fear and stress, and share with us next time and explain to us how the superpower you gained and how it has helped you along this journey. As we get ready to close, we're going to stop the video. And this is where we're going to have questions and answers. If you have any questions or you want to go ahead and discuss or ask, feel free to do it. You can take yourself off of mute, or you could write it down in the chat and kind of go from there.